All right, this is day 2, and this is what I have accomplished. Oh, let's do this too. So I've updated the Stream Deck. Couldn't find all the graphics for everything, so I started with just black, and I used yellow text. I used Keynote, and I made the slides square, and then built a bunch of slides, each one with its own name, and then exported them to image. So I have like 30 black squares with yellow text, and they're pretty large, so they come out pretty decent resolution on the buttons. But my next task is to, and just in case you're wondering, it says square. That's actually rectangle. I just didn't want to make the font text smaller to make the word rectangle fit in there. But anyways, I want to get some decent looking icons that will look okay on a black background for the buttons. Because if I'm in a dimly lit room, I don't want bright white coming off the Stream Deck. Each one of these little buttons is its own little LCD. So, but here they are. And so left hand, I tend to use these the most. So that's why it's in the sequence it's in. And then the other one, sitting right next to it, just has random stuff on there. So I got to figure out what would go good there. And then fill this one up also. So that's in the works. But, and Madiq is the business name. The gentleman's first name is Nathan. I was talking with Larry Belk, and he was laughing because I didn't know what Madiq meant. But the logo is very cool because I'm in Kitsap County, and it looks very similar to some of the logos we have for the reservations around here. Wow. Oh, we got puppy issues. I'm going to have to stop this video. So something I noticed when I go into X-ray mode is I must have missed a place to put in the verticals, because typically our stem walls have verticals called out by engineering. And I caught it when I was thinking about the crawl space access, how we would have verticals on either side tied into the horizontal continuous. So I need to look into that. And then also we would have STHD, or there'd either be embedded straps to help with shear wall, and I haven't even looked into that. I'm one of those guys, if I find new software, I tend to try and just figure it out without reading the instructions, so that's on me. But I love this X-ray, and so this is the first one I built all by myself using SketchUp, except for the roof. I haven't figured out how to run rafters long and then put in a cutting plane. And since this automated it... Oh, and there's another question. It has a label. So if that label exists, that means maybe there's a schedule or some kind of table that might have relevant information based off of this. I just need to search that out. And the other thing is, I measure these, and I know for a fact this one's 10.4 and 5/8, this first long jack, from the tip of the long point to along the top of the board to the outside of framing. So what I had to do was draw a line vertically up till it intersected with the top of the jack there. And I did the same over here, so it's sort of like popping a chalk line. But that's how you measure a rafter. I've seen guys, well, I was taught to do it on the inside. Well, that only works on 2x4 walls. Because if you had any wider wall and you went from the inside and then started your seat cut, you wouldn't have anything left out here in the rafter. And so I don't know who teaches the inside along the bottom style. It's definitely not the way I learned. I learned over the outside to over the outside is the span, minus the ridge thickness, divided by 2 gives you the run, and the run is along the top of the board. So if you took a string from the outside of the framed plate, you would be somewhere in the middle of your ridge, and depending how tall you make your height above plate, your hap, the part that's left when you cut out the bird's mouth, that's the same amount that you would rise up here to get to the top of the ridge. Been doing that since 1989, and it's worked 100% of the time. So don't get stuck in your ways. Just do it my way. I'm just kidding. No, there's always a way. Richard Birch has the one measure system, and it's foreign to me because it just feels complex, even though it's probably way simpler. And he's asked me to try to figure it out, and it's like one of those obstacles. I need to be on a job site and watch it happen, and then I'll get it. So I'll tell you what, the next time I have a roof to cut that's actually complex or at least a little bit fun, I will try his method. But, so yeah, after the fact, how do I put in, first, how do I make rebar that looks this cool? And then put it in verticals, like J, down here with a J turn. And it comes up every, I don't remember, 2 feet, 4 feet, whatever. Because I want that on both sides of this opening, 3 inches back from the edge. And I want to make sure that they clear these vent holes. So there's that. I don't know how to draw rebar to make it look just like I copied a piece of this, but then I didn't know how to cut it and didn't know if it would rotate and embed and center inside the, you know what I mean? A lot of little things I got to figure out. But this is realistic, and the dimensions are correct. And this is how a ridge comes together at the top. I'm going to turn off X-ray for a minute. The ridge does not stop in the middle, like that imaginary line that comes up here. It ends up right here where the bottom of the orbit icon is. Let's do this. It ends up right there at the tip of the cursor. That's not where you stop your ridge. So because there's thickness, you have to account for all that. Otherwise, if we were just building along the string, sure, it would work. And here's another very accurate representation of what's really going on. You don't take the long point of your hip and bring it to the peak up here. What you're trying to accomplish is the edge of the hip and this edge of the hip have to plane across their corresponding roof areas. And some people will put a backing angle, which means you'll just drive your saw down the one side and then the other side with the bevel that will make a peak all the way down this hip. Then your long point would be right there if you want to do that. I've only really seen that done on hips that are wider than 1.5 inches, or unless it's somebody who's super old school who just says it's the right way to do it. If you have the time, it is the right way to do it. Because then when you're measuring your plywood, you can come right over and you'll know exactly where it ends to line up on that line. And you don't measure. You measure one length, like to the bottom, and then you calculate the next one so that you can make your plywood run mathematically true. Once you start chasing things in the building, it'll be Murphy. One of these jacks will be off or something will be crooked, and you'll measure to it, and you'll start causing errors. Whereas if you keep everything mathematical and you run into something and it's not quite landing right, then you know you got to straighten it to bring it back into perfection. So on this 20 by 30 building, let's just measure the, let's see, using the Stream Deck. Let's do this. Let's take a dimension from there to there. Look at that. That's exactly what it is. 10, 1.5. because Chief calls this. So this building is 30 feet this direction and then 20-foot span. And in Chief, when you dimension the ridge, they say it's 10 feet long. And it's because the ridge stops 3/4 back on both sides. I'm going to go check on those little puppies and see what's going on. And thanks for watching. Okay, I finally got to the information page. Nathaniel P. Wilkerson, professional engineer. So I apologize for getting the name all goofed up, but I was too excited about the software, and I'll get to know the person later. So, yeah, this guy is amazing from what he knows and has been able to do with the software to make it accurate. There's very few people in the world who care. Most people say, oh, yeah, let the framer figure it out. Or, yeah, they'll work it out on the job site. And that's a lot of designers who don't understand how things go together. And they play that off like that's just how the industry is. And what that tells me is they haven't taken the time to actually learn how everything works. Mostly those are interior designers who they're dealing with a structure that's already built. And that's fine. But nothing wrong with continuing your education to learn how every aspect of a home or a structure works. So I really like what this guy has done. Kudos. Keep going. I will support this guy any way I can.